Bulldogs. General Manager Phil Gould has clarified details around Josh Addo-Carr's roadside drug test in what's become a massive distraction for the Canterbury club on the eve of their first finals campaign in 8 years.
Obviously, this is not the way we wanted to start this special week for the club. Our first time in the finals since 2016 and our club performing so well this year. Josh, as far as he's concerned, he's done nothing wrong. He can't understand why he tested positive once at the scene of this roadside test on Friday night. However, he had the initial roadside test, which showed an indication for cocaine. So he said, you're under arrest for the purpose of a secondary test. Now, normally, and this is where it got confusing for us, normally that would be going back to a police station or to a mobile unit somewhere around where you go back and do a secondary test. It's changed a little bit now. They're able to do that test on the scene in the back of the police car. And then I asked him what was the result of that test. He said there was no result. They don't give you a positive or negative at that time. What they did was seal it in a bag and said, if you haven't taken drugs, you've got nothing to worry about.
Gus, he said, the police officer said you've tested positive and he's telling you that he tested negative.
He thought, yeah, that's right. That's the one part there that I said to him. In his mind, he felt it was inconclusive. The policeman did say to him that you have a positive here for a positive indication of cocaine, which is, they don't convict on that one, they have to go and get the other one. So he went back to his car, there was still rubbish on top of his roof from the initial test. He said, boss, what do I do with this? He said, just throw it in the bin, best of luck, on your way. Got in the car and drove.
At least still at the scene when he decided to get in the car and drive, mate.
He says yes, 100%. And I've grilled him on that. Josh came and reported this to us straight away. And as far as he was concerned at the time, that would be the end of the matter.
Did anyone know that he left that night?
No, I think he said he went down the road to get a phone charger at one of the Easy Marts or something like that. So it sounded pretty innocent to me. I don't think he's deliberately misled me or lied to me. Probably didn't give me the whole version of what had happened there on the night. Till that sample comes out, none of us are going to know. He limped off the field in the last 10 minutes of the Thursday night session. So he was playing up until Thursday night for the Saturday game. Did he lie to us? Well, I'm convinced in Josh's mind that he didn't think we'd ever hear about this. Do I think he was deliberately lying to me to mislead me? No, that's Josh. If it comes back positive, Josh will have to explain to us how it got in his system, because he's adamant at the moment, and I mean vehemently adamant, that he hasn't taken the drugs. I hope he's proven innocent. I hope everything he's telling me is 100% right.
Phone charger to drug test, 96 hours that could change Addo-Carr's life. Phil Gould there facing the music and very forthcoming in that press conference today. Gordy, it's been a big 24 hours for the club, the Bulldogs, and also Josh. What's your thoughts?
Well, I reckon it was well handled there by Phil Gould. I just wish that, or I reckon he wishes that he knew on Friday night so he could have got ahead of it. But the truth will come out. I think Josh Addo-Carr's innocent until proven guilty by the police. But I think it's a smart decision so there's no distraction in the club's biggest game in the recent 5 years. I think it's a smart decision to stand him down so there's no distractions.
Dave, you wrote this article, so you've got some details for us on the events that have taken place.
Yeah, look, there's no running away from it. This is a nightmare for the Dogs to be handling, as Gordy said, in what is their first final series since 2016. Their star winger, hugely popular among the fan base, to be dealing with this. What I will say is that was a 17-minute press conference today from Phil Gould, and what was clear to me, guys, is that Gus is running the Bulldogs. The way he got on this front foot from the get-go in answering every question, and as we saw there, where Gus didn't really know if Josh was telling the truth, he admitted it as much. Whether Josh is being forthcoming as what he knows.
He often said in Josh's mind.
That's right.
This is what his thoughts
Yes.
were. He didn't say he lied or was deceiving. He didn't believe that. But he said in Josh's mind. He said that 2 or 3 times at the press conference.
To Gordy's point, Josh is vehement that he has not taken any form of drugs, and now the process begins, of which, guys, can take weeks. And what I'm talking about is the secondary sample, which will be conducted in a laboratory to determine whether he is actually positive.
Can you talk us through the actual procedure? Because there's confusion around this.
Yep.
A lot of people get pulled over and tested for drugs, alcohol, but this was a little bit unusual. Can you talk us through
So just after 10:30 on Friday night, Josh is pulled over and undergone both an alcohol test and a drug test. He is negative to alcohol, turns a positive to a drug. Now, at that point, an oral swab is taken, and at that point also, it is normal procedure to undergo a secondary swab. Now, due to unforeseen circumstances, of which is the police at the location being called to a home invasion across town, that secondary swab isn't taken. Now, this is where it will get interesting on whether the oral swab stands up, from Josh's point of view, if it comes back positive. Now, we have seen false positives in the past. Josh Reynolds is a perfect example. So, look, time will only tell here. And for now, the Bulldogs sat down with Josh Addo-Carr and said, look, you've got two decisions here. You can play this Sunday, or you can stand down for the team.
I'll come to you, Crawls, and this is a bit off the cuff, but why wouldn't have Josh told Gus that it was a positive test? And why did he tell him it was a negative? Because that's where it's a bit murky.
I get the feeling, Braith, there's a lot of twists and turns to come in this story as it unfolds in the weeks to come. Gus alluded to the fact today that aside from this drama, there's some personal matters going on in Josh's life that, you know, people aren't prepared to talk about at the moment. But I get the feeling that there's going to be further developments down the track. Why Josh said that, who knows? He might have misunderstood what he'd been told by the police, the fact that he was allowed to then go and drive away. He may have easily misunderstood that, and I agree with what Gordon said also. There is a presumption of innocence in this country, and he's entitled to that. I think the Bulldogs have made the right call. Well, Josh has made the right call by standing down this weekend, and Gus's leadership has been simply outstanding. You know, he stood front and centre. He looked after the player as best he could. He looked after the club's best interests. He took the pressure off the coach. He took the pressure off the team and allowed them to focus on what's at hand. And it's been outstanding.
It's a good example of leadership, isn't it? The way that Gus has handled this. Now, another question, Dave. Why did Josh leave the hotel when the rest of the team were at the hotel? Yeah,
so Braith, it's my understanding he left. So Bulldogs coaching staff and injured players attended last Friday night's Roosters South match at Accor Stadium due to the fact that the team was staying at the Pullman Hotel adjacent to the stadium. I understand Josh left the stadium at half-time for what Gus has explained for a phone charger, and that's the explanation at this point in time.
He left at half-time to get a phone charger?
That's the explanation, Braith.
Okay.
So
that's a bit odd. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's not telling the
You
truth.
would think a teammate would have a phone charger. You think someone in the stadium would have a phone charger, and it shouldn't be that important, should it?
No.
Okay, it's okay to live for 40 minutes without your phone, I'd suggest.
All right, so he's been stood down, well, he stood himself down for this week. Does he play next week?
Well,
if they win, of course.
Well, that's right. So if they do advance past Manly, that was the question raised at the press conference. What do you do with Josh Addo-Carr next week? Of which Gus actually didn't really want to go down until they have to cross that bridge. Under this current CBA, under the current NRL regulations, there is nothing stopping Josh Addo-Carr playing this Sunday and or next weekend should the Bulldogs advance. So, yeah, it was led to believe that let's take the air out of the balloon as far as this preparation is concerned for this Sunday in this matter. Whether Josh, the club, decide that he's fit to play the following weekend, only time will tell.
But if we don't have the result by next week...
You won't have it, Braith.
I
won't say that. Play. I think the right decision's been made for his mental welfare. This week, it would have been very hard to deal with what's going on in his life and then go out and perform to his best for the team. But if he's in a better state next week and there's still nothing known, because I do believe he is a massive loss for the club. Like in that game the other day, he set up two tries. You know, his speed is a weapon. And without him, the Bulldogs aren't as good a team. That's just a fact.
The NRL step in, do they step in at all?
Only at which point they have a matter in front of them of where Josh has been charged on an account in this occasion. There's been no charges laid, Gordy. So there's nothing the NRL can step in and do at this point in time. The Dogs, they leave it with the club. The club have taken the initiative here.
Yep.
And which is
Devil's
why
advocate.
Josh is not playing. One example of...
Was Latrell Mitchell charged?
Or different circumstances, though.
you
Because,
just said
no, the
charged.
difference is that Latrell was photographed and the photograph appeared. And he was never found to have taken any illegal substance, but it was the damage to the game's reputation by that photo being released. In this situation, it's an ongoing police investigation. And as we spoke about previously, there's a presumption of innocence. Things can happen. You know, these false positives can come back. Things can, you know, I think it's important for the NRL to sit back and take time to judge this and judge it on what they know.
Now, Josh, at this point in time, is innocent. He's innocent until proven guilty. We've said that a number of times already. But if he is found guilty, if there is a test that is returned, the second test returns positive, will they sack him? Given that not only is it positive, but he also, if it is positive, has lied to the club.
Well, he says he hasn't lied. It's been a
No,
misunderstanding.
but if he's
No,
found...
it's what he
if it's
believes.
I'm saying if it's positive.
Oh, yeah, if it is positive. Well, the club's in a difficult situation because, look, he's one of their higher paid players. He's a senior player at the club. He's supposed to be a leader, and if he lets them down on that front, it would be hard to stand by him. I also think you'd love to see the day where the game took a tougher stance against players who have tested positive. I think, you know, it is a society problem, drugs. But it's also a problem that I think the game could confront better. I think that, you know, young men on building sites, if they ever test positive to a drug, they're not allowed to work. They lose their jobs. You know, rugby league players are in a very similar situation where they're out there in a dangerous workforce too.
I said earlier that Josh Addo-Carr is hugely popular among the Bulldogs fan base, of which he is. But with that comes huge influence. And when you're an influential player of what Josh Addo-Carr is on that footy club, on the game, within the community, in front of young kids, I think when you are weighing up whether to terminate someone's contract, Braith, that has to come into it about the role that you play within this club. You actually are held at a higher account, in my eyes, given the influence that you have at that footy club. Not only that, it takes up a huge chunk in the salary cap.
I added the lying bit because if it is a second positive, it makes it worse, the fact that he has said that it was negative and
Well, I think Gus distanced himself. He said what he believes.
he's
It
told
doesn't mean that Gus believes it. He said what Josh believes.
Yeah, and he's told the club he hasn't taken drugs.
The timeline's going to be fascinating, guys, because in covering the Braden Trindle situation earlier this year, it was relayed that ability to get his second sample back at the time was between 6 to 12 weeks. And look, the lab might not be as full at the moment, so it's going to be interesting to see whether that's a similar timeline here.
All right.